But what's up, everybody? This is Sam Highstone with Positively Bipolar, and here just bringing you some positivity about being bipolar. So, because a lot of people talk shit on mental illness, but actually it's not a mental illness, it's a mental advantage. You just got to know how to use it. Here are 5 things that are awesome about being bipolar. Number 1, let's start with the manic. You know, if you're bipolar, you definitely go up and you go down. And depending on your relationship to those ups and downs will determine a lot of your reality. One awesome thing about being bipolar is that you never run out of the will to do things. Now, a lot of people say, oh, when I get manic, I just do way too much. But honestly, it's a great way to be able to weed out what you do and don't want because you're willing to try out a million different things. A lot of people are so scared to even try one thing. So we just got the will to do, and that's fucking awesome. Second awesome thing about being bipolar is ideas. There's a lot to be said about the creativity process and where that comes from. So I know as someone who has both suffered and enjoyed my bipolar, and ideas are never a scarcity. So that leads me to point number 3 about the third thing about being awesome about being bipolar. It's never boring. You're never bored when you have bipolar. Either you're like really up or you're like super down, but there's rarely ever an even keel. Yeah, it's nice to have a little up and down, you know, I mean, like waves. You can't have troughs without, you know, peaks without troughs and all that good stuff. You gotta learn how to ride those waves though. If you're having a whole lot of discomfort in your life, I was manifesting all sorts of shit. And it's because I was identifying with the shit that happened. And so my bipolar would exacerbate that, you know, racing thoughts and not having the mental tools to maybe get out of some of those situations definitely was difficult, but you learn, you just keep going, and it gets way better. Some of the things that made it way better were the low points, which brings me to my 4th one. You gotta learn how to ride those waves though. If you're having a whole lot of discomfort in your life, I was manifesting all sorts of shit. And it's because I was identifying with the shit that happened. And so my bipolar would exacerbate that, you know, racing thoughts, different things, and not having the mental tools to maybe get out of some of those situations definitely was difficult, but you learn, you just keep going, and it gets way better. So some of the things that made it way better were the low points, which brings me to my 4th one. If you're going so hard and so fast and it just like mentally you don't feel like getting out of bed, maybe that's because your body's screaming at you to take an extra day off, or some sort of rest, mental rest or something like that, because you're getting burnt out and you're just not aware of it. You know, a lot of this stuff, when you do suffer from when you do have a diagnosis of being bipolar or something like that, it can definitely have a negative connotation. But if you become aware of it, you know, these depressions are parts of yourself that maybe aren't getting a chance to be expressed. You know, if you're having some inner turmoil that you don't feel like you're ashamed of, or like you don't have a voice for, or your needs aren't being met, these are all different reasons that you can fall into a depression. And it's not just, you know, your unfortunate mental status. You know, you can do things about these sort of situations. So it definitely brings you back to connection. And again, everybody's different. I'm just speaking from my experiences. When you hit rock bottom, it sucks. If you've ever hit rock bottom, it fucking sucks. It's the worst thing. But in having that rock bottom moment, you are now entitled to its exact and polar opposite. So if you have this depression that goes down this far, you have an opposite positive area that you can go to. You have a positive opposite of this negativity or this low point. You are now entitled. So if you've only, you know, those people that have only, maybe they've never been depressed in their life, you know, and they like go this far back. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with not having a lot going wrong in your life, because then they're entitled to be that happy. But if shit has hit the fan and maybe you struggled with addiction or a loss of a loved one or divorce or just some really fucked up shit happened in your life and it went all the way like off the charts, you're now entitled to this whole range of like emotion that you now have access to, should you choose. A lot of people get stuck down here because they start to identify their person as being a person who is this way, and it's until you can drop that identity or drop that role or quit gaining acceptance or filling your needs through this depression and learn that there's another side to it, then you can really do some good and gain some insight from that depression. I've never gained more insight in my life than I have when I was suicidal, or when I felt like I didn't want to be here for prolonged periods of time. And I totally identified with that. This is who I am. I'm eventually going to end up killing myself. You have those thoughts weeks on end because you just feel so miserable. And it wasn't until, you work on your awareness, you work on your ability to question your perceptions, what you're viewing as reality. And once you start to do that, you can gain a little bit more perspective. Getting out of that bottom is going to require you to grow. And that goes for anybody, whether you have a mental uniqueness or not. But with the mental uniqueness that we call bipolar, more than likely you're here and then you're shot way off the charts into something manic, and that's the thing. That's how it is. It's not all bad. In fact, it can be really good, just depending on how you look at it. If you're depressed right now, just remember, it does get better and there is something you can do about it. You do have a choice. And if you don't feel like you have a choice, DM me and we'll figure this shit out, because I got you. There are steps we can all take to improve any situation, because really, it's all up in here. It's all up in here. And things happen for you, things happen to you, yes, and everyone goes through those things. And if you don't think that, then maybe you should open up and talk to some people. And if that doesn't seem like a good idea, just know that it's going to get better. It always gets better should you choose to seek it out. So, all right, well, let me know if you have any comments about this, and hit like and subscribe. This is Mike Moonshadow, and I will talk to you later. Love you. Peace. Yes, number 2. Yes, Nicola. What is it? I love you so much. What do you need, my love?
Well, it's not enough clay. I tried and it's not enough.
You tried enough. Okay. All right, well, let me finish this. And I will be in there to get you clay. Okay. You are now entitled. There.